Hey everybody, this is Mark, your friend from Slot Journal. Today I wanted to talk about buildings for your track. You know, on everybody's slot car track, if you're lucky, you're going to end up with a spot that, maybe calls out for something special. I had the same thing on my track. Up in the highest portion of the track, I had this pretty sharp bend. It's an area I call the carousel. And I was looking for something special to put there. Now, I had some inspiration. I thought of several buildings, and you can see one here. This is the famous Belvedere Hotel up in the Furka Pass in Switzerland. And while it was an interesting building and I really liked the look of it, the size and scale was a little bit too much for what I was looking for in this area. I felt that that building or anything close to that would just block too much of the racing view. So I had to come up with something that was a little bit smaller, be a little bit more appropriate for the space. So today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I came up with. Let's get to it. So you may remember this building. It's up in the highest portion of my track, up around an area I call the carousel. What I plan to do here is I have a building I'm been working on for this. It's going to get dropped in here. It's actually a two-part building. You see one part in this picture, and the other one's the one we're going to be working on today. Eventually, that tower area, there's going to be like a lift, a gondola will come from the lower portion of the track up to this portion of the track. I don't think it's going to be operating, though. I don't know if I want to mess with that. But in any case, this is where we are right now, and I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing on the other portion of this building. Now, sometimes when I do these projects, I may not show you every single part of the process, only because sometimes it's just self-evident. You don't need to have me, showing you every single cut I make or every single step, because, it's just logical. I assume you're pretty smart and you can get these processes for yourself. So what we're going to talk about today is the building that's going to go on here. As I said before, this is going to be both a viewing platform at the top of this alpine section, and it's going to have eventually, there's going to be a platform here with a gondola with like a sky thing that goes down to that corner down there. So we want a building that goes here, and it's going to be a semicircular building. So the first thing I did here is we make a paper template, and we design that template, size it the way we want for something that's going to fit on top of this, this rise here. So once we've got that paper template and have kind of a basic idea of what we want to do, sometimes these things, proceed on the fly. We kind of do it as we go. Take that template, and then what we do is I used some foam core, and at first I cut a basic shape for the bottom, test fit that. And then originally I was going to have two floors. I took two more pieces and cut them exactly to the same shape. And then I punched holes through them to connect them. I sandwiched them all together and taped them together, and then punched the holes through all three at once to ensure that these all lined up perfectly with all the different floors. Now, as I said, originally I was going to make this a 3-floor building, and there's a picture here you can see where where it was going to be 3 levels. After looking at that, I determined it was just going to be too high. I didn't want to have it blocking the view that much. So what I decided is go back to a single level. This is going to have a railing around the outside of it. And then this back section will be kind of a tower. It's going to provide access to be, we'll assume there's like an elevator in there. And then also there's going to be a platform back off this side that's going to have that where the gondola comes in and, empties passengers off. So that's where we are now. But again, as you can see, what I did here, once we had the template and the foam core cut, we had the holes lined up. These are just those, bamboo skewers. And we punched them through. Before we did that, though, we actually measured them to the height we wanted, for all the different levels, cut them, put them through, and then what we did was hot glued them underneath to make sure that everything was secure. Now, the process here, and we'll continue this is going to get double-sided foam around here like it's kind of a weather stripping. We'll go around the outside of this, and then I've got 0.04 polycarbonate, which is like PET. It's like stuff like plastic bottles are made of. Sheet of that will go around here to make the clear plastic. It'll get stuck on. And then I have some red tape that will get applied over here to cover these. So this will be like an all the glassed in area. And then I'll do some kind of a railing over this section here. But again, just wanted to give you an idea of how we got to where we are here. It's not rocket science. This is pretty simple. Just take some common sense on, how you set these buildings up. Okay, so just to follow up on the next part of the process here, what I did is I applied, this is a PET, it's an acrylic plastic sheet. It comes, this is something I got off Amazon. It's flexible. Again, it's the same stuff that you make plastic pop bottles out of. And I applied it to the building, and what I used to do this is weather stripping. It has a double-sided adhesive on it. It's a very strong adhesive. So what we simply did was run it along around the outside of the building here, let it set, and then we applied the plastic to that, and it's held it very well. What you see on the outside here, this is just a protective covering to keep it covered, so we don't want any extra smudges or scratches or anything on it. But as you can see, it fits the building, very well. It'll give us that nice curved glass effect there. What I have to do next is kind of figure out the back part of this building. I have, there'll be some walls here we'll cut to fit, and probably, may put some windows in here. The main issue I have is I have to make this back section of the building kind of removable so I can get access in here to put, figures and stuff inside the building. And again, this is just foam core. You can see I back cut it so it fits flush here. And I'll do something similar, but I may, since this is the back side, you won't see this. I may make this so like it hinges out, this and this back wall, so I can get in here and access it. The wall on the other side can be fixed. And then there will be another short tower section here, and that's where the gondola from the skylift is going to come in. So that's where we are right now. But again, it's pretty straightforward process, just using basic stuff we have here and putting it all together. So I'm not going to go through a step-by-step process of how I built this building. A lot of construction techniques, I'm using foam core, some clear acrylic, glue. A lot of these things are pretty basic, but I will show you the various steps on how it proceeded along, designing it and putting the different parts together. So I started with that building you saw in the last, section of that video, and added the exteriors. I used just some black cardstock that had grooves in it. Built the back of this building. Again, the front portion where the glass is kind of like the lounge area. The back section is a hallway, and that's where the kitchen's located. On the next shot, you can see here how I had to make the back of the building swing open. You can access the kitchen there, but also so I could get the lighting in and later on place the figures. And again, here in the next shot, you can see a figure just put in there for scale. I've got some printouts I put on the wall. There's a If you look really close in some of the other views, you can see there's a menu on the wall and a beer poster. So I try to get as much detail. All the lighting is taped to the top of the ceiling so you can't see it, but it'll light the interior of the lounge and also the kitchen area. The next section here you'll see I built on the tower, which is a back section of the building. This tower is there. It will accept the cable car will, come up, from the lower part of the track up, and there'll be a landing area on the top, the other side of this tower. And that's where, people will get off and then come into this building. If you see the red pole, that's where the car apparatus will be attached to that. I've got that to work out, but again, this tower, it's an old castle-like portion of, maybe it's an old ruin. In this building, I tried to blend something old and something new, which isn't uncommon. But again, it's made out of thick, like that half-inch foam that I carved, blocks into it. And you can see here, in the next view, if you look through that archway in the tower, it points down to the lower corner of the track, and that's where the bottom end of the tramway, the cable car, is going to come from a building down at the far end of the track. Again, you can just see some other construction views of that tower, how it was made. Again, it's foam car, and it was painted up and highlighted to look like stonework. There's a black section you can see in the bottom that was kind of a sleeve. The tower fits in that, and then the groundwork and the terrain will be fitted up around that sleeve and molded around to it. You just see some other views of the building and the tower, how it all comes together. And all in all, I think it looks pretty good. Like I said, it's kind of a combination of old and new, which is an interesting way to go about architecture. And I think it fits the space really well. The tower is a little bit taller, but it doesn't block the view for racing too much. So I think all in all, it worked out pretty well. Here's a couple additional views of the front part of that building. As you can see here, I've added the railing around the outside of the top. I've also added some more exterior work. The back side there, you can see that white guard. That's going to be up against the stone tower, so you won't see that. Again, we've got this part of the work ready and got some other finishing details we'll need to add now. So I installed a light here on top of this to light this upper deck patio at night. So before I install figures, though, what I need to do is some detailing here, and it's time to remove this protective cover that I've left on here to keep it clean and to keep stuff off of it. Now, as I work on this, I'm going to use some gloves because I don't want to get this all messy and dirty. As I work on this. So there we go. Trying to get to see, what this building looks like a little bit. What I am going to do, though, is I have some decorative tape that I'm going to run down here and maybe along the bottom. I just think that will make this building look a little bit better, a little more finished. So we'll see how that works, but that'll be the next thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to want to get some gloves on because I don't want to get that glass dirty. I'm going to try to avoid it if I can. So here we are. I've added that extra, decoration around the outside just to give it a little more architectural unity. And at this point, we'll go ahead and start getting our figures set up on the inside. Now, as we get ready to put this building in place, we want to have an idea of where we're going to put our figures inside the building. And it just makes it a lot easier. So what I'm going to do here is, since the top, the deck of this building is identical in size to the floor below it, what I did is I just took these figures before I've painted them and just put them in place to give myself a general idea of where they're going to go. So most of the figures are out standing around looking out through the windows. A couple figures you'll see, about 3 figures in the middle. There's going to be some tables that they're standing on, some high tables. And then you see 2 fellas, they're going to be standing in line in front of the kitchen counter waiting for their orders. So once I get these set, I can take a picture of it, and then I have a record of where I want to put these figures. I do the same thing for the lower section, where you'll see here I pull out the kitchen. I have 2 figures that are going to go in there. I have a counter assistant there, and I have a cook who's coming out. He's got a hot dog in one hand and a utensil in the other. So once I have a good idea where they're going to go, I'm ready to proceed. So for the most part, this building is generally complete. We're in a position where we can put it in place on the track. We can put our figures in it after we've gotten them painted up. You'll see here one guy, I 3D print a lot of my figures. A lot of them are older, like Airfix and other types of track figures that everybody's seen. But I also convert some toy soldier figures. You can see an example here. This is an old Airfix soldier. He's an Australian. I removed all his military equipment and painted it up. So he's cheering for his favorite racer out the window of the building. But again, once we get these figures placed, we get the lighting all set up, we can test it, make sure everything works. I added some additional lighting. There's a red light on the top of this mast where the gondola is going to be attached to eventually. And we added some additional figures you'll see up on the upper deck to finish that off. So for right now, we're in pretty good shape. I still have to do some work on the other side of the tower to build that platform for the gondola to come in. And I have to, on the top of this mast, have to come up with some kind of apparatus to hold that. But I have some ideas on that. So in any case, this is a kind of a complex project. Again, it's, custom scratch built, had to be for this particular area. No, it's possible. You just look around at different materials you have, things you might have on hand, and you can come up with a design yourself that's going to fit your track and be something really unique. Well, I hope you found that episode somewhat helpful. Making buildings for your track is very satisfying. And there's some really good sources out there for track buildings. Racetrack Scenics, Magnetic Racing, they make some outstanding buildings in addition to other ones that the traditional track manufacturers have provided for years. But, you get a lot of fun building those buildings, and they're really well constructed, well thought out, and they look great. But in some cases, you have a track and, you have a certain space or a certain style or, type of building you're trying to build it. And the only recourse you really have is to build it yourself because it may not be available from anybody. Now, to do that, the internet is a great resource. All you have to do is do a Google building search. Go to geographic region, maybe where you're thinking your track is located, or just racetracks, pits, all kinds of buildings. Just do a Google search. You'll bring up plenty of images of things that can, give you a guide on what to build and plenty of inspiration to build something unique. Because really, when you scratch build, it does give you a lot of satisfaction. Like I said, in a lot of cases, it's the only way you're going to get what you want. Plus, you also have the satisfaction knowing that, it's a unique building. Nobody else is going to have that building on their track. So I hope you found it useful today. If you're looking on tips how to build, you'll see that tower where we look like that with stonework. I have another video where I tell you how to achieve that kind of work. There's a lot of different methods you can use to do it, and I'll show you the one I use, but you can take a look at that video. Maybe you'll find that helpful as well. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this, I hope you can like and subscribe. As always, it helps the channel. So until next time, thanks. Get that trigger on the finger and get going.